produce from being excluded from the American Growth and Opportunity Act are set to resume tomorrow. They are currently, the products currently enjoy duty-free access in the US. President Barack Obama was expected to announce last night whether his government will start excluding South Africa from exporting a wide range of products, especially agricultural produce, into the US duty-free. Now, at the heart of the dispute over South Africa's refusal to loosen strict rules governing the importation of US chicken, beef and pork into the country.
The American Growth and Opportunity Act was first passed in the year 2000 and was in place for 15 years. It was renewed in June last year to run for another 10 years. The Act allows 39 African countries to export about 7,000 product types into the US duty-free. This on condition that they remove all barriers to US trade and adopt a free market economic system. Problems between the US and South Africa arose early last year in the lead up to the renewal of AGOA, when American poultry farmers insisted that South Africa remove its anti-dumping duties for US poultry. They also want the country to loosen its strict rules on checking meat from other countries and certifying that it's disease-free. In November last year, US President Barack Obama gave South Africa an ultimatum of 60 days to give in to US demands or face being excluded from benefiting from the new AGOA. The deadline was last week Thursday. The South African government says progress has been made in the tough negotiations, but some key issues remain. The main sticking point being South Africa's refusal to loosen its tight rules, which demand that US poultry be free of the salmonella bacteria, which is common in US poultry. The bacteria is extremely dangerous to humans and can cause severe infections.
Our objective remains, as we said before, to continue to stay in AGOA for the benefit of the economy of this country, and by the way, for the benefit of the bilateral economic relationship between our two countries, and at the same time to do this in such a way that we do not subject either our animals or our people to any unacceptable risks. That's what it's about.
AGOA has helped to double trade between South Africa and the US over the past 15 years. Last year, trade between the two countries reached 270 billion rand. South African exports to the US now stand at 70 billion rand. 25 billion of that took place under AGOA. South Africa remains confident that the dispute with the US government will be resolved amicably soon.
Over the holiday period, we have made considerable and significant progress, and that we are now in the end game of the process. And that's where we see ourselves, and that's what our mandate is from our leaders and everybody, is to conclude this negotiation, to come out with a successful outcome.
It's not yet clear why President Obama has delayed his much-anticipated announcement on trade with South Africa, or whether he's waiting for the outcome of tomorrow's crucial talks between the two sides. Mbongini Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, Cyril Prinsloo is a researcher at the South African Institute for International Affairs. He joins me now. Cyril, good afternoon. Thanks for coming in.
Afternoon, Devin.
All right, if we were to go with the stance of government yesterday at that press conference we just saw, one sees a very confident, optimistic government. That's despite the current trade dispute and despite the fact that there are related deadlines here. Do you think we are still likely to remain in AGOA?
Devin, it's difficult to say. It's clear that over the the last 60 days significant progress has been made, but as Minister Davies said, there are still a couple of outstanding issues. Now it is surprising that President Obama hasn't made any announcement revoking South Africa's AGOA preferences,
which was expected yesterday.
Which was expected, yes. Which leads us to believe that they must be very close.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the difficult issues here. Now, there's been a lot of progress on pork, on the quota for the amount of chicken that comes into the country via the US. But the US saying here South Africa is just too rigid with regards to its salmonella bacteria levels in chicken. And of course, South Africa is saying, look, we cannot change the rules of procedure on detection just for the United States. We have other countries here. Is the balance hard to find, you think?
Absolutely. You know, there's the balance between economic growth, you know, keeping the trade preferences, but also ensuring the health of South Africans. So I think the South African authorities are in a very difficult place. According to the South African authorities, they apply the same rules as, you know, internationally accepted standards.
Do you think the compromise would be a tough one? What's at stake with that compromise if South Africa has to give in?
If South Africa has to give in, you know, there'll certainly be some losses for South Africa.
Yeah.
The most hard-hitting sector would be agricultural sector. It's estimated that there's about 62,000 jobs created from these AGOA preferences, majority of which are in the agricultural sector. However, once the issues are resolved, South Africa would again then be eligible for AGOA benefits. So if Obama were to make the announcements revoking South Africa's preferences, it's only a matter of how fast the two parties can work to resolve the outstanding issues.
And if we just look specifically at those sectors that enjoy duty-free access in the US, if the plug on AGOA is pulled, they no longer enjoy that. Citrus exporters, for example. If the plug is pulled, they go back to not having a duty-free activity in the US. Then they have to sort of play with competitors here that put them in a very difficult position to sell their produce. That has implications back home, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We saw over the last couple of years that citrus exporters has managed to grow their market share in the United States, specifically as a result of these AGOA preferences. So if they would lose these preferences, they'd still be able to trade. However, as you'd said, you know, countries like Chile that don't enjoy these preferences are likely to regain that market share that South African producers won.
Okay. Tomorrow's talks, I mean, they seem to be pretty crucial. The idea or the thinking is that President Barack Obama might make an announcement depending on the outcome of those talks. We see that Aaron Motsoaledi, the health minister here yesterday, emphasizing that there has to be a balance between our trade benefits and that of health. What do you think is the main sticking point tomorrow?
Absolutely. Devin, I think, you know, with any trade negotiations, things take time. And I think that's, you know, South Africa worked against a very tight deadline. 60 days is not a lot when you think about dealing with these issues. You know, the Minister of Health needs to consult with a wide range of stakeholders on these issues. So I think in this case, it's purely a case that time ran out in the end.
And they face a very difficult decision here, don't they, Cyril? Because as we alluded to earlier in our conversation, it's really about changing the detection of this bacteria coming in from US chicken and making it appropriate for everyone that we trade with. And that's not an easy task, is it? Because it's detection procedures and protocol at all ports of entry. And the protocol in itself takes a very long time to actually reconsider or reconfigure.
Absolutely. Like I said, you know, South African authorities claim they are upholding international standards when it comes to these things. If those standards were to change, if they were to make exceptions, again, you know, there's a whole range of stakeholders that they need to consult in order to make those changes. So it's, you know, it's just a long process. What
do you make of the US's position, which says that, look, we export chicken to various countries around the globe. No one really asks for such stiff protocol when it comes to imports here, just South Africa?
You know, often health issues are used as a trade barrier to block entry of goods. South African authorities, Minister of Health, has assured us that this is not the case here. They're not using these SPS measures to block the chicken imports. It's purely an issue of considering the health of the South African population.
All right, we'll leave it there. Cyril Prinsloo from the South African Institute for International Affairs. Thanks indeed for coming in.
Thanks, Devin.
Now we'll take a look at more news after the break. Do stay with us.